Hello and welcome to the Bullvine Podcast. I'm your host, Bella. We're so excited you've joined us today for what I think is going to be a game-changing conversation for many of our listeners.
And I'm Douglas, joining Bella today to dive into something that's not just changing the future of dairy farming. It's already transforming operations right now. We're talking about how machine learning and artificial intelligence are revolutionizing reproductive management on dairy farms across the country.
Douglas, I know many of our listeners might be thinking, oh, great, more tech talk that won't apply to my farm for years. But that's not the case here, is it?
Not at all, Bella. Look, I'm going to cut right to the chase. If any listeners are still relying on visual heat detection alone in 2025, they're leaving serious money on the table. The numbers don't lie. Automated monitoring systems powered by backpropagation neural networks are delivering 21-day pregnancy rates above 30% in progressive herds while slashing hormone use by 75%.
Those numbers are remarkable. Today we'll break down exactly how these systems work, the economic impact they're having, and most importantly, practical steps for implementation on your farm. So grab your coffee and settle in as we explore this reproductive revolution that's changing the economics of dairy farming. Douglas, before we dive into the new technology, let's talk about where most farms are today with reproductive management. What's the current landscape look like?
It honestly drives me crazy, Bella. National surveys show that 51% of dairy farms, that's more than half, still rely primarily on visual observation for heat detection. Despite overwhelming evidence, visual observation misses more than half of all standing heats.
More than half of heats are being missed? That seems enormous.
Think about it this way. Would you accept a milking system that leaves half your milk in the cow? Of course not. Yet when it comes to reproduction, we're surprisingly willing to accept massive inefficiency.
I imagine most farmers understand reproduction is important, but maybe not exactly how important.
Ricardo Chebel from the University of Florida puts it plainly. He says, reproductive efficiency is a key driver on the economics of a farm. Now that might sound like stating the obvious, but here's what most people miss. Poor reproductive performance creates this nasty ripple effect through your entire operation.
What kind of ripple effects are we talking about?
It's not just about pregnancy rates. It affects lactation persistence, peak milk in the next lactation, lifetime production, replacement decisions. The whole economic picture gets warped. And most dairy accounting systems don't capture these costs because they don't connect production, replacement, and genetic opportunity costs.
So farms might not even realize the full impact of their reproductive performance.
Exactly. The impact of suboptimal reproductive performance is probably 30 to 50% higher than most farmers currently estimate.
Let's talk dollars and cents, Douglas. How does this actually translate to the bottom line for a typical dairy operation?
Want some numbers that'll make your coffee taste bitter? For a 500 cow operation, each additional day of average days open costs you about $2,500 in lost profit.
$2,500 per day.
Per day, Bella. If your days open are pushing 140 plus days, and let's be honest, many herds are, you're talking about over $100,000 annually compared to herds hitting 110-day averages. And that's not even counting increased culling, replacement costs, and suboptimal genetic advancement.
When you put it that way, investing in better reproductive technology isn't really an expense. It's stopping a massive ongoing loss.
Precisely. And here's a simple calculation any farmer can do right now to estimate their losses. Multiply your average days open beyond 110 by $5 per cow per day. That's the minimum annual profit you're leaving on the table.
So let's talk about what's changed. We've had activity monitors and pedometers for years. How is this machine learning technology different?
Remember when activity monitors first came out? Those glorified pedometers that counted steps? That's ancient history now. Today's systems use sophisticated machine learning algorithms that transform behavioral data into insights that were unimaginable even 5 years ago.
What kind of algorithms are we talking about? I know our listeners would appreciate understanding what makes some systems better than others.
The technical differences matter significantly. Get this, algorithm performance metrics range from 73.3% to 99.4% for sensitivity, 50% to 85.7% for specificity, and 72.7% to 95.4% for accuracy. The backpropagation neural network algorithm, with a 0.5-hour time window, consistently outperforms everything else for predicting estrus in dairy cows.
So basically, some systems are much better than others at correctly identifying when cows are in heat.
Exactly. And what makes cutting-edge monitoring systems so powerful is their comprehensive data integration. They're tracking 12 distinct behavioral parameters simultaneously. How long cows stand, lie, walk, feed, and drink, how often they switch between activities, step counts, displacement, velocity, and frequencies of various behaviors. When you run all that through advanced machine learning algorithms, you get reproductive patterns that even your most experienced herdsperson couldn't detect with 24/7 observation.
It's basically like having a team of experts watching every cow, every minute of every day, but with even more precision than human eyes could provide.
And they never need sleep, never get distracted, and never have a bad day.
I've heard that high-producing cows can be particularly challenging when it comes to heat detection. Is that true? And does this technology help with that specific problem?
Bella, you've touched on something critically important. Have you noticed your highest-producing cows are getting harder and harder to catch in heat? It's not your imagination. It's biology working against you.
Really? What's happening there?
Chebel's research clearly shows that production levels dramatically affect estrus expression. When a cow has low milk production, say below 70 pounds per day, the probability of detecting estrus ranges from 70% to 100%. For moderate producers between 70 and 90 pounds daily, that drops to 50 to 75%. High producers between 90 and 110 pounds, only 35 to 60% detectability. And for your elite cows producing over 110 pounds daily, detection probability plummets to just 20 to 40%.
So traditional methods are least effective, precisely where they need to be most effective, with your best cows.
You've got it. And this creates a real challenge for traditional fixed-time AI protocols, too. They treat all cows identically, despite dramatic differences in reproductive physiology and behavior.
Douglas, it sounds like these systems don't just detect heat better. They might actually change our whole approach to reproductive management. Is that right?
Can I rant for a minute? The dairy industry's one-size-fits-all approach to reproductive management is wasting millions on unnecessary hormonal interventions. We're stuck in this weird time warp where we acknowledge that cows are individuals for milk production, health, and nutrition, but then we treat them identically for reproduction.
Go on.
Why are we still treating high-fertility cows the same as their struggling herd mates when we have the technology to tell them apart? Automated monitoring enables a fundamental shift from blanket protocols to targeted reproductive management. Instead of treating every cow the same, you use individual cow data to determine the optimal protocol for each animal.
What kind of results are farms seeing with this targeted approach?
The results are excellent. In cows with intense estrus, researchers reduced hormone injections from 9 to about 2 per cow, a 78% reduction. Beyond the obvious cost savings, this approach addresses growing consumer concerns about pharmaceutical use in agriculture.
Beyond hormone costs, what other economic benefits come from this targeted approach?
You're also reducing labor for treatments, decreasing stress on animals from fewer handlings, and identifying problem breeders earlier for intervention or culling decisions. Most importantly, you're focusing your breeding resources on the animals most likely to conceive, which improves your overall reproductive efficiency.
Let's talk about the return on investment. These systems aren't inexpensive. When do they start paying for themselves?
I know what most farmers are thinking. Will automated monitoring deliver ROI on my operation? That's the right question, and the answer isn't a simple yes or no.
What factors affect the payback period?
A Dutch research study provides some fascinating insights. They use stochastic dynamic simulation modeling, a fancy way of saying sophisticated economic analysis, to compare visual detection with automated detection for a 130-cow herd.
What did they find?
Visual detection yielded a 419-day average calving interval and 1,032,278 kilograms of annual milk production. Automated detection reduced the calving interval to 403 days and increased annual production to 1,043,398 kilograms. That's an 11,120 kilogram production difference, approximately 85 kilograms per cow. Significant revenue improvement, but you must weigh it against the initial €17,728 investment, roughly $136 per cow.
So the payback period really depends on your starting point.
Absolutely. If your estrus detection rates are below 60%, either timed AI protocols or automated monitoring can substantially improve reproductive performance and reduce cost per pregnancy. But if you're already achieving excellent estrus detection rates above 70%, the economic justification must consider additional benefits beyond heat detection.
What about implementation? I imagine the technology alone doesn't guarantee success.
You've hit on something critical, Bella. I've seen this countless times. Similar technologies delivering dramatically different results across operations. Why? Because implementation ultimately determines whether technology delivers transformative results or becomes an expensive disappointment.
What separates successful implementations from disappointments?
Several critical success factors consistently differentiate high-performing implementations. First, comprehensive staff training and buy-in. Technology alone can't improve reproduction. It requires people who understand and use the information effectively. Second, integration with existing workflows. The technology must complement rather than disrupt established management routines.
Building on that, what about working with the farm's veterinarian?
That's the third critical factor, veterinary collaboration. Engaging your veterinarian in system implementation dramatically improves outcomes. And fourth, continuous performance monitoring and refinement. The leading implementations establish weekly reviews of key performance indicators, monthly comparisons of system recommendations with actual outcomes, and quarterly assessments of economic impact.
And I imagine setting realistic expectations is important too.
Absolutely. Understanding the typical adoption curve prevents premature disappointment. Successful implementations typically see an initial adjustment period of 1 to 2 months, with limited performance improvement, followed by gradual improvement over 3 to 6 months, and finally breakthrough performance once the system is fully integrated, usually around 6 to 12 months in.
Douglas, we've covered a lot of ground today. If our listeners take away just a handful of action items, what should they be?
Let's not sugarcoat it. The evidence is clear. Automated reproductive monitoring systems powered by sophisticated machine learning algorithms can fundamentally transform your operation's reproductive performance. But technology alone doesn't guarantee success. Here are 5 specific steps to revolutionize your reproductive performance. First, start with an honest performance assessment. Calculate your current reproductive metrics and compare them with industry benchmarks to identify your specific improvement opportunities. Second, quantify your complete economic picture. Go beyond basic reproduction costs to calculate the actual financial impact of your current performance. To estimate the minimum profit opportunity, multiply your average days open beyond 110 by $5 per cow daily. Third, select technology aligned with your specific challenges. Choose systems using backpropagation neural networks for superior performance, particularly in high-producing herds. Fourth, implement targeted reproductive protocols. Develop dual-track approaches using technology to identify animals suitable for natural service versus those requiring hormonal intervention. This targeted approach reduces hormone use by 50 to 75%, improving overall performance. And finally, establish clear evaluation metrics and timelines. Set specific performance targets and evaluation points at 3, 6, and 12 months post-implementation.
So to wrap up today's discussion, we've learned that machine learning technologies aren't just the future. They're transforming dairy fertility management right now. These systems can achieve 21-day pregnancy rates above 30% while reducing hormone use by up to 75%. They're particularly valuable for high-producing cows, where traditional methods often fail. And while the technology requires an investment, the economic benefits are substantial. Each 1-point improvement in the 21-day pregnancy rate represents approximately $35 to $50 per cow annually in additional profit.
The operations that will thrive through the rest of this decade will effectively combine technological capabilities with sound management fundamentals. Automated monitoring won't replace good reproductive management, but it will dramatically amplify your ability to execute your strategy with unprecedented precision. Isn't it time your reproductive management strategy evolved beyond approaches that waste money while leaving significant genetic and economic potential untapped? Your reproductive efficiency directly impacts your bottom line, and today's technology offers unprecedented opportunities to maximize that critical driver of dairy profitability.
Healing. That's all for today's episode of the Bullvine Podcast. If you found this information valuable, please share it with other dairy professionals who might benefit. And don't forget to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts so you never miss an episode. Until next time, I'm Bella.
And I'm Douglas. Thanks for listening.